Of course, yeah. Hello to those I saw yesterday, but also hello to all of you here as well. Thank you so much for bringing us together. Vastamai, good afternoon. My name is Sarah Mercer. I am the co-founder of Earthscope, which is a social enterprise based on the Isle of Man, helping the Isle of Man to become a pioneering Nature First Nation. I'm also a big advocate for the Isle of Man, and I love talking about it to everybody, so sorry for later.
Vastamai. My name is Tiffany Karish. I am co-founder of a business on the Isle of Man. You may have guessed it has something to do with the bottle in front of me. It's the Fenodry Distillery, and we established in 2017, so we've been going a few years now. Absolutely delighted to be here today and represent one of the businesses from our amazing island. And yeah, I'll pass you on now to Kiri.
Vastamai. I'm Kiri Guberman. I'm Head of Business Development at Business Isle of Man. So I get the great pleasure to work with some phenomenal companies that we have based on our island and to help them grow and develop.
So the title for this talk was Doing Business on the Isle of Man, a UNESCO biosphere. So when I wrote it up there, I had to spell check it. I'm like, is this the right way? Well, like, what is this? And I don't know if everyone knows this, and it's quite impressive. So, Sarah, maybe you can tell us, what does that mean exactly, UNESCO biosphere?
It's a very good question. It covered a little bit at the beginning of that film that you just saw, but biosphere is all living things. That is what the definition of that term means. What a UNESCO biosphere means is that the UNESCO, the sites of World Heritage and biospheres, have recognised that the Isle of Man has a unique sense of its biosphere. It is both unique in its landscape, the things you'd expect in a biosphere, and its wildlife, but also in its people, its culture, our day-to-day life, and our economy, how our economy functions, and how we work together with all of those things. I hope that's enough of an explanation. If you have any questions, do ask.
Yeah. Do we have an idea of how many places are designated like this?
That's a great question.
We're the only entire nation biosphere in the world, so that really does make the Isle of Man a very unique place. But I think it's a growing number.
Several hundred
and
around.
It's definitely a movement that has gained a great deal of momentum, and more places are joining in on this act. So.
We have awesome islands in Brittany as well. If you're from Lorient, you've probably gone to Gua, and you can look out, and it's really awesome. People from Gua think about sustainability all the time. There's a brewery there. They do great things around sustainability always. But I'd like to understand, maybe from an economic development point of view, how has the UNESCO biosphere sort of influenced what you do on a daily basis, in investments and innovation? How is that sort of changing your roadmap?
I think this year, what we saw for the first year was really sort of trying to understand what UNESCO means for businesses. So we have a number of businesses that do partner with UNESCO, and it's something that they see value in. But this year, for the first year, what we did was we created an innovation challenge, and we centred it around the biosphere. So we gave it the umbrella of the UNESCO biosphere. And actually, what does that mean for business to be innovative within a UNESCO biosphere? It was a competition that was open globally. And in fact, predominantly the companies that came to take part of that accelerator as an innovation challenge were global companies to understand how they could work and innovate and potentially use the Isle of Man as a test bed, really, for that innovation. And actually, what could that then inform on a global basis? So one of the categories there was a biosphere category and a clean tech category. To really sort of understand and develop that, we've got some very ambitious net zero targets as an island, and we don't yet have all the solutions to reach that net zero by 2050. So in terms of actually working with businesses looking in and to create those opportunities to collaborate was absolutely key. We're an island, we're a small island, we've got this beautiful position within the middle of the Irish Sea, so we're great in terms of being able to see many of our Celtic neighbours there from the island. On a clear day we can see Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, and England. We've got this fantastic heritage around us and those connections. So really the Innovation Challenge was there to sort of really promote those connections that we have on a global basis and really develop that. Sarah was part of that process as well and was one of the judges within the biosphere. Sarah on that process as well.
Just the fact to centre the idea of biosphere in everything. So, you know, in terms of the crises that we're facing in the world, the crisis of the biosphere is that. It's the climate, it's the social crises. So to have all of these other ideas, data, fintech, all of that, but with biosphere at the centre, is how we should start to be thinking about business as we future-proof our businesses. So I thought that was a fantastic structure to centre it around.
So at the Inter-Celtic Business Forum, we love founder stories because people are doing great things, but sometimes we don't tell their story. So you, Tiffany, you decided to do a distillery on a small island, some might say in the middle of nowhere. I'd like to hear why you did this and this founding story. Share us a little bit about that and the difficulties you found.
Yeah, so we started a distillery because we'd reached a point in our life where we wanted to do something completely different. We came from a legal and a marketing background, but we were extremely passionate about the island and in particular our culture, the Manx language and everything that makes the Isle of Man a fantastic place. We were extremely interested in producing craft spirits, and so it didn't take long before all the sort of cogs started to turn, and we went away to many of our Celtic neighbours to see the fabulous distilleries, of course, that are world famous in Ireland and Scotland and elsewhere. And we gradually became more and more inspired to get the distillery launched with some off-island assistance from a fabulous distiller in Scotland. So it started in 2017. It was actually just at the same time that the Isle of Man had very recently become a biosphere location. So our story started very much at the same time as we were all organising our thoughts on the Isle of Man and how we can engage in this. And we were a very early adopter of the business partnerships that the UNESCO set up. And it worked absolutely brilliantly for us because everything that we wanted to put into our distillery to make it different, to give it a unique sense of place, to make it a fantastic place to work and something to be proud of and something that we could really share with the world, this little piece of the Isle of Man. It was embodied by the pledges that we had to take as a biosphere partner, which was to protect our natural resources, to engage in our community, to share our heritage, and to actively be a positive influence in the economy around us, as well as generate a new economy for our island. The Isle of Man is famous for its financial sector and e-gaming sectors, and to be now part of the movement on the Isle of Man that is a growing food and drink sector is again, it's really inspiring for us all to engage in that. So the biosphere became this framework that we could organise our thoughts and help shape our decision making and help to ensure that what we did was positive in all of those different aspects of the pledges of the biosphere. So we went from 2017 from a distillery that was in the garage at the back of our house to very quickly establishing a footprint on the Isle of Man, and we've moved several locations. We're now in a fabulous distillery in Ramsey in the north of the Isle of Man. We welcome tourists, and it's gone from strength to strength, and we're probably looking to expand again quite soon. So
terrific, congratulations. I want to talk about Earthscope a little bit, maybe explain why you've created this. Also like to understand the economic model for maybe inspiration for other places like Brittany or Scotland, how maybe they can duplicate it, or maybe how you can maybe implant yourself in other places.
Yeah, of course. It's a long story, as is any founder story. The inspiration and the knowledge comes from a sort of long place. I was actually going to become a lawyer. That was my plan, to become an environmental lawyer. And then I did geography with the intention to convert to law. Fell so much in love with geography that I've put aside law for a bit, and I'm still in the geography era. Yeah. So I fell in love with geography and climate change in particular, and glaciology. My research was in Antarctica. And through that, I've been able to do a huge amount of opportunities and talking to Arctic explorers. It's been fantastic. But then through time, I felt that wasn't really a job I could do on the Isle of Man. As you said, famous for our finance and our e-gaming sector, not yet famous for our sustainability sector, but soon. And so I felt I couldn't go home and still have a job. So I decided to make a job. And bringing in all that expertise and all that passion I have for talking to people about the biosphere and about my home, the Isle of Man, we created Earthscope, which does exactly that. We talk sustainability, and importantly, we talk to the people, we talk to individuals who are part of organisations and part of communities. The business model itself is a social enterprise, and the reason, perhaps I'll explain social enterprise just very briefly. Essentially what that means is it's a profit-making company, but at least 50% of that profit goes straight back into the community. And the reason that we ran it as a social enterprise rather than as a profit-making company on its own is that we felt that that fell more in line with that idea of biosphere, with a place that is good for people, planet and profit. And so hopefully that is a model that we do encourage the people that we talk to follow when it comes to particularly small businesses. We think it's a very effective model, but there are lots of other examples in various nations of how to do a business that gives back is what we're looking for. Thank you.
I'd like to understand maybe on Business Isle of Man. I mean, sometimes, obviously, you've made this a centerpiece of what you do. How do you get businesses behind it, though? I mean, obviously, you've got great folks here that are totally behind it and part of the center of what they do. But some businesses maybe won't agree to, like, okay, that's nice, it's a nice label, but how do you convince them on the day-to-day to follow these things and enter into what the vision that you want to bring to your home?
I think for many of the businesses that are on Ireland, they're there because they really want to be. And that's such a key part, because community and who we are is such, it's embedded in everything that the island does. So I think that plays out in the business community as well. In order to do business in the Isle of Man, we are a very small nation. There are 85,000 people. So, you know, we're the size of a large town, effectively, in one nation, which means that we have to work together and collaborate together. We've got some amazing businesses, but they need to be niche. They need to be very high value, very low volume, but be very specialist and really good at what they do. Great example in Finodry. We've got some businesses there that do some really interesting high-tech stuff. We've got probably one of our companies, their product gets used 1 billion times a day across the planet. Now that's a company that's headquartered in the Isle of Man. Not something that you might expect, but I'm not sure if anybody might have a clue about what that product is. But it gets used 1 billion times a day. It's actually a kettle control. So they have 50% of the world market on kettle controls. Again, they're a driving, leading company. The company is called Strix. If you turn your kettle upside down, make sure it's empty first. But you might see Strix written on the ring on the bottom of your kettle. That's an Isle of Man company. But again, they're a driving company in terms of sustainability and making sure that products that are used 1 billion times a day in homes across the planet are actually sustainable and lowering. So those are the types of businesses that we work with. We pull them together. As Business Isle of Man, we're an open door to policymakers, to wider government, to connect across into other jurisdictions as well, and to really help businesses do business in the way that they want to do business. So we do have that open door in terms of trying to support and manage that. But really it's about creating an environment where those businesses can talk to each other and make connections and really drive forward.
If you're a company, let's say from Brittany, and you're like, wow, I'm super inspired after this, and I want to open something on the Isle of Man, what soft landing opportunities are you offering?
In terms of that, our biggest selling point tends to be that we're an open door to government. They literally come and talk to us. And that's how it starts. It starts with a conversation. And then in terms of support, we are a low tax jurisdiction in terms of that. For businesses, it's zero corporation tax for manufacturing. We will work with businesses, so in terms of if you're going to generate jobs, then there's an opportunity for grant funding in terms of plant and machinery up to 40%. So there are opportunities there, but your business model has to fit. It's got to be in terms of actually doing something on Ireland. You've got to be a real business with substance, creating jobs in the economy, and that has a fit across our island as well. But we love conversations, we love to collaborate, we love those open doors, and exploring and finding out what might be possible.
Tiffany, we've heard the founding story. I think you're expanding a little bit, trying to enter new markets outside the island. Can you give us a little bit an idea of that and the challenges?
We've reached that critical point where we are able to now export beyond the UK. It's much more complicated for us to get our product, being an alcoholic product, outside of the UK since Brexit. But we've recently been able to set up a direct-to-consumer platform that's going to take our bottles directly to people's doors in 5 or 6 different European countries now, so that's great to see that up and running. And as we mentioned, we are very well supported on the Isle of Man by our business agency, and we've been able to go to some very interesting conferences and expose and meet some worldwide distributors who are now showing interest in our products, and we're now to scale where we are able to meet any sort of export demand. So yeah, but I think to sort of bring it back into Celtic, it's very important to us as a Celtic brand and from the Isle of Man to try and forge links in the inter-Celtic community, and that's something that we're particularly interested in speaking to Celtic countries and distilleries in those Celtic countries in particular, because there is a global shortage of barrels at the moment, so just bring it down to a sort of particular issue. I think that we could all work very closely together in our sector to try and alleviate some of those pressures. So that's definitely something that I would like to
If you were to rank the top 3 markets you'd like to be in by 2025, which would they be?
Well, gosh, on the spot that's quite tricky, but we have our eyes quite set on the Far East. There's a lot of synergy between the Isle of Man and Hong Kong, so we have demand there already. We have demand for our product in Ireland, and because the Isle of Man has had a very strong link with Brittany through 50 years of attending the Festival in Celtic, we would really love to work with Brittany a lot more on what we're doing. So pleased to say we have our bottles in the festival this year at the festival bars, so if anyone is tempted by a Fin and Tonic, then do pop and see the bars.
For someone that wants to purchase a bottle, online is a possibility, right?
Yes, our website, we have e-commerce on our website, and the European destinations should be going live in the next couple of days, so you can pop on our website, and France is included, so yeah.
Okay, and if you're at the festival, which you are, it's the Whiskey House it's called? Or?
Whiskey House, Gin and
Whiskey House, which is in the middle and of the Visage Celt, and you can taste some, I think. They give them for free, right?
A little, yes, we're doing some animation at the Manx Pavilion tent.
Yeah.
So,
and good news, I think if you stay till the end today at the cocktail, there might be a little tasting.
we might open the bottles.
Yeah. That's fun. On Earthscope side, what are some of the things coming up here? What's your big focus in the months ahead?
Big focus in the months ahead is we are lucky enough to be the delivery partner for the sustainability training for the Isle of Man government, which is a world-leading government now in sustainability and has become the first parliament to be carbon literate. So that is a sort of world accredited level of accreditation with sustainability. So we are keeping that going and developing that. And there is an action day in November that coincides with COP that will be doing something big, exciting and currently secret at. So keep an eye out for that. But also to continue those conversations, to continue our link with biosphere in particular, so to work with the biosphere team to bring together the community of people working on biosphere in the Isle of Man. Again, we are a small community, we tend to know each other, or at least know someone who knows someone. So what we are trying to do as Earthscope and as the biosphere team is bring those people together, make sure that there is an ongoing conversation about that. And we are not the only, we might be the world's only UNESCO biosphere nation, but we are not the only biosphere that is worth talking about. So if anyone in any Celtic nations has anything about their biosphere that they would like to talk to and develop links with us, we would love to have that conversation. So please come and talk to us about how we can open those doors as well.
Great, I love it, I love it. And I think we all have to go to the Isle of Man now, right? Yes? Perfect, let's give them a big round of applause.